Come meet me at the Musial with Alan and Daniel. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. Everyone come gather round, listen to your favorite sound. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We'll talk the games and all the rest, about the team that we love best. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We're gonna talk about the Cardinals all night long.
Good morning and welcome into another edition of Meet Me at Musial. I'm your host, Daniel Shoptaw at C70. Al Medlock's still not joining us today. We're doing this at a different time and the schedules didn't work, but he should join us next week. This week, we've got the host of Locked On Cardinals. You know him as JD Hafron. JD, how are you this morning?
I'm good, brother. How about you?
I'm doing well, let's get into this because we were talking a little bit before you got into the show about the daily grind that is doing Locked On Cardinals. You do this every day. You're putting out 20-30 minutes every day. How do you do it?
It's not always easy, I'll be honest, but what's great about the baseball world is that we play almost every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you some new content basically every single day. And it's kind of what's great about it is being a Cardinals fan my whole life. There's a passion for the game and for the team that I have. So I'm never short of words of how I feel about this team, even though 95% of the stuff is positive, which I do catch some flack for that. Some people think I should be a little more harsh against the team and the organization, but being a fan, that's how I got into this whole thing. And I'm going to continue to support them the best I can.
Yeah, if you're a fan, you should want your team to be bad, right? And so you're kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt when things happen. Now, sometimes it's rough. I mean, we've seen that the last 2 or 3 years, but even then, if you're not looking for the silver lining to some degree, it's a hard slog. Why are you doing it?
Yeah, and you just kind of become a troll, and that wouldn't be a very fun life to just be negative about your team and the things that you love over and over day by day. So I try not to do that and try to look at the bright side of things, even though last couple of days have not been so bright for our Cardinals. A couple kind of ugly losses against the Pirates. Hopefully things will wake up now that they're going to Cincinnati.
I mean, if it doesn't, I think we've got real concerns, right? Because that ballpark, that pitching staff, everything like that should give a little bit of a jolt to the offense because that offense has struggled. I mean, pretty much all year, all month, right? I mean, it had a great April, and then over the last little bit, and especially this week, as you noted, 2 shutouts this week. It's been a little bit shaky. Are there concerns for you on that end?
A little bit, just because when we came into the season, we all wondered, well, will there be enough offense to win a decent amount of games? Because let's be honest, the record that they have right now, nobody saw that coming. We could sit here and say, hey, of course we believed in them, but nobody thought they would be winning this many games and winning them in the fashion that they have been doing it, where it's 1-run games coming from behind, extra innings. None of that stuff is really sustainable over a long period of time. So they've gotten out to this great start. And I'll also say this, the month of May, your level of competition has been pretty good, right? Dodgers, Brewers, Padres, A's. The Royals have struggled a little bit this year, but we thought they were going to be better than they've shown so far. Pirates, we knew they'd be better this year. So I think part of it has to do with this month of May is also a very tough schedule for the Cardinals. And it's just not an easy grind here in the month of May. But to be where they are, even despite that, is pretty darn impressive for a team that's supposed to be rebuilding, right?
Right. And then, again, by the end of the year, we may say, yeah, this is definitely a rebuilding year. But for right now, 7 games over 500, it's a pretty nice little bonus for Cardinal fans to have been able to spend basically 2 months and not be complaining about the team, but be actually excited about it. And we have seen, obviously, offensively, we have seen some surprises. It feels like Jordan Walker is not like Superman now, but he's still a lot better than we've seen in the past. And I don't know. I think it's amazing. As bad as he was in spring training, then that last game he kind of flipped a switch, and now again he's not hitting a home run every time up like he was in in April, but he's definitely probably the most consistent hitter, one of the most consistent hitters on this team.
Yeah, this month, still hitting just under 300, 5 home runs, 19 RBIs, and if that's him cooling off, well, I'll take it. I mean,
Absolutely.
he's been something else, and just like you said, to go from where he was at the end of spring training and where he did look like lost, he looked like the same guy that we'd seen the last couple seasons who couldn't lay off the low and away pitches, couldn't catch up to the fastballs. He was all over the place, and you could see it in his face when he would be up at the plate where he was thinking and
Mhm.
how he even said maybe I'm overthinking too much and I got to take a step back and just kind of let my body do what it's done with the mechanics that I've been taught and I've been working on. And ever since then, he's been that guy that you can rely on in that number 4 spot for your order. And yeah, he's been outstanding, and I've loved the approach. And if this is where he's going to be when he's cooled off, if he starts heating up yet again, I mean, sky's the limit for this guy. He's a massive man. He's an athlete. He's got a birthday today. Happy
Yep.
birthday,
Happy
Jordan.
birthday,
So
Jordan.
it's been something special to watch him and seeing Alec Burleson do it again this
Mhm.
year, coming off that Silver Slugger year, and then to have JJ Weatherholt at the top of the order, kind of getting things moving. It's been a whole lot of fun to watch, and a lot more fun than I think we all expected.
Yeah, the top of the order is great. Bottom of the order, maybe we don't talk about as much, because it has been a struggle, especially of late. Now, maybe that will change here in a couple of weeks as Lars Nootbaar comes back, and I guess we'll see a change this weekend. Nathan Church going on the injured list, Bryan Torres finally getting the call up. That is going to be an interesting thing. How do you think that the Cardinals will use Torres in this, however long Church is out?
Well, they love them some Jose Fermin and Thomas at JC, so they're not gonna just automatically bring Torres. At least I wouldn't think that they would
Yeah.
just bring him in and just give him left field and say, "All right, go do your thing." I feel like it might be a bit of a struggle for him to get some at bats just because he is another left-handed bat too. But it's amazing to see Brian Torres's numbers down in the minor leagues over his career. We were looking at batting averages of 370 a couple of seasons before
Mhm.
he got into the Cardinals organization, and then he's like right around 330 the last couple years. He offers another speed aspect to his game, stealing some bases, which is something that it feels like it's slowed down a little bit for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
They haven't been running nearly as much, at least just my eyeball test tells me that. With Victor not getting on as much, you're not seeing him run,
Mhm.
and that's really the hole that maybe he fills, because that was kind of what Church was doing, right? He was kind of
Yep.
taking over center field a little bit from Victor, and with Lars possibly coming back here real soon, I don't know where the room is for Torres to get a whole lot of at bats. JJ's going to be at second a lot. Gorman's going to be at third a lot. It's just there's not a lot of room for him right now, which is one of the reasons why you never saw him come up or get a crack at this lineup, because there just hasn't been enough at bats to warrant that. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't get overly excited about him just because I don't know how much he's really going to play. But I'm really happy for the guy, considering he's 28 years old and is finally getting a chance at the big leagues. He's a small guy, 5'7", 165. Not a lot expected from him, and yet here he is, finally getting a chance to play in the big leagues.
Yeah, and I do wonder. I don't disagree with what you're saying, because I think it's very, very possible. But I also see a scenario where the Cardinals say, "Hey, you're going to be here for 10 days because you're going to go down when Newt comes back." Even if
Hmm.
Church is fine, and they're like, "You're just going to play, 8 of those 10 days, and we'll see what you have, and get some sort of idea." Now, maybe he didn't, maybe it didn't work or whatever, but um, I mean, I could see that, because it's obvious that there needs to be some alternative to Victor Scott. As much as I love VS2, the offense hadn't been there this year, and I expected a lot more. Not, and a lot more than he's given. I'm not saying he was going to be a world beater, but at least a regular average and being able to get on to, like you said, steal some bases. And it just hadn't been there.
Yeah, it's been a disappointing year for Victor. Defensively, you love him, right? You
Mhm.
lock down center field, and he's one of the best in the business at going and getting it. But when you're just a black hole at the bottom of the lineup, I mean, he's hitting what this month? He's down to 172 over the month, 16 strikeouts and only 3 walks. Like he just doesn't get on base.
Yeah.
The on base percentage 226. Like that's not nearly good enough for a guy that's got his skill set. The guy that should be a capable bunter and should be able to work counts and stuff, and he just doesn't. Like it's been tough. It's kind of like how it was watching Jordan Walker the last couple of
Yeah.
years, right?
Yeah.
Where you're all these expectations, and we're not saying you got to be a superstar, but can we get a little something? And when you can't get that, and you had somebody like Nathan Church who can cover almost as much ground as you kind of have to go with somebody else who can do a little bit more offensively. And I just it's hard for me to think that the Cardinals are just going to give Bryan Torres a long leash to go play and take over in center field over Victor. It just does not feel like that's something that they're going to be willing to do. Maybe they get him off his feet one or
Mm.
two games in the next 10 days or something, possibly. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of room for him. Maybe as a pinch runner at some point. I don't know. I don't know how Ollie's going to deploy it, but you know how he is with guys that are kind of his guys
Yeah.
in the clubhouse, and those are his veteran guys now, even though this team is as young as it is. It's got to be tough for me to see him giving Bryan Torres a center field start over the next few days. I just feel like it's going to be more of a fill-in type of deal.
It very well might be, and if nothing else, Torres is already probably the best guy off the bench, if you need a pinch hit, because the bench has been kind of a weak spot, and
Yeah.
a lot of players that aren't getting used, right? I mean, I had forgotten that Cesar Prieto was actually on this team for a while because he didn't show up,
Yep.
and so between him and Pozone, that it really is there is nobody there. Now, granted, in the DH era, you don't need that pinch hit stuff as much, but still, I mean, to be able to bring somebody off the bench that it may not be a power threat, but at least could a runner on second may be able to drive them in. That's a lot better than what we've got right now.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of options down there, is there?
Mm-mm.
When Ollie looks at his, all right, who do we going to bring up? All right, so JC, you're not doing much. Fermin, yeah, we like you. Pozo, yeah, I mean, it's not super exciting,
Yeah.
and Torres will give you that speed option and stuff that like you said with Cesar Prieto. Even when you do play him, he doesn't do anything. I don't think he's got a hit yet
Yeah.
in this year. So at least at the big league. So yeah, if you can get somebody, like Torres, if he can somehow pull it off and show anything like he's shown in the minor leagues, that might be a fun little toy for Ollie to have because he can play outfield, he can play infield, he's got speed. Clearly, his bat to ball skills are good. He's not
Mhm.
a guy that's going to strike out a whole lot. At least he hasn't over his minor league career. So maybe there's something there. Maybe Prieto goes back down when Newt comes back, because Torres can give you a little extra something speed wise and defensively, where he's a better utility player than Prieto is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's gonna be interesting. It's either Prieto or it really feels like I don't know. To me, it feels like maybe Thomas and JC could use a little bit more time in Memphis because there has been
Yeah.
a lot of struggles there for a guy that has had major league experience and even success to some degree. It's just not clicking this year as much. I don't know what it is, but not only have there been less on the offensive side, we've seen some mental errors, base running or otherwise, that kind of make you think that maybe a reset is needed.
Yeah, and when he's not playing every day, and he's a guy that they clearly like, and they
Mhm.
they would love to give him more at bats, there's just the room for it. And when he
Right.
is getting in, like you mentioned, he's not producing, and there has been some mistakes. And as much as it would be a bummer for Sajasi, it kind of feels like this is the role that Ramon Urias is the guy that's supposed to be doing this. And if
Mhm.
he hadn't gotten hurt, then JC would not be here. Remember, he
Right.
got sent down,
Right.
and then he was called right back up the next day because of injury. So, that's definitely something that I'm on board with. He's not offering you anything offensively. 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. He's batting $105 here in the month of May and 19 at bats. And, it's just so sporadic his playing time, and it's just really not doing him any good. It's a disservice to what you want for Thomas Saggese. He's not going to get any better sitting on the bench, and that's kind of where he is right now because he hasn't been very good when he gets into the lineup. So I totally agree with you. As soon as they start to get healthier, I think Saggese goes down.
Yeah, I mean, especially, and I haven't heard any reports on Urias since he got hurt, so I don't know what's going on there. But with Newt on his rehab assignment, and he's going to have to be back. I think the June 1st or June 2nd is probably when that runs out, so he's going to be back pretty soon. I think those, and then whenever Nathan Church, and I don't know how long he'll be out. You get that kind of get those kind of guys healthy, which just strengthens the bench, and maybe there's a little bit of a resurgence in this team once they get all these pieces in place. I think it's really going to be interesting to see what this lineup looks like when Nootbaar gets into it, don't you? I mean, it's going to help lengthen that lineup and do a little bit about that bottom of the lineup problem.
Yep, exactly. And that's what I'm excited about too. I don't know how much Newt's going to play in the field right away. I mean, those surgeries obviously are no joke. And think about it. When you do have Church back in the lineup, I mean, if Victor goes to the bench because of that, and you got Church and Newton left and center, you're not losing much defensively there, maybe a little bit. And then, Victor comes in as the defensive guy late in games, but certainly Newt's going to offer you a ton more upside offensively than you're getting from Victor, from Saggese, yeah, I'm excited about it too. Where do you want to put him in the lineup when he does come back? What do you think is like the best scenario for him and spot in this lineup when everybody's healthy?
That's a good question. Because I mean, with if JJ Weatherholt wasn't doing what JJ Weatherholt does, you'd say, "I'll just put him back at the leadoff spot," probably. But the way that top of the lineup has gone, I think I'm probably like looking at 5th, right, and push Gorman down and push everybody else down. I think that's probably right in that area where you'd want to go. What about you?
Yeah, I kind of like that just because it gives some more protection to Jordan, batting cleanup, and then it's a contact guy that's behind him instead of a free swinger like Gorman is, because you're getting a lot of Gorman's done better this year. I know we're
Right.
very hard on him because we have expectations for him to be much more than maybe what he's ever going to be, but that comes with that first round pedigree, right? So, but Nootbaar, he's somebody who can put the ball in play, and Jordan's on base a lot. Let's be honest. He's on base a lot. And when you're getting that so much swing and miss from Gorman right behind him, it seems like he gets wasted a lot and he's stranded out there on the bases.
Yeah.
So you put Newt there. You're using Walker's speed this year a whole lot more, which I love, which I used to, complain about. I'm like, dude, this guy can fly. Let him go. Let him do some things. They've been able to do that this year because he's on base more. And I think that'll open things up just a little bit. And like you mentioned, it lengthens the lineup. Now you've got better guys, better hitters down there instead of the dreaded like Pajes and Victor. If Church is going to be back, like it does open things up a little bit more if Newt is the guy that Newt has been through the years. And from what we're hearing and things that we've seen from his rehab, we don't expect him to be any different. So I can't wait. I think it'll be great. Plus, it brings that Nootbaar energy to the team too, which is not going to hurt things either.
Yeah, an energy that has probably would compound the energy that we've seen this week. We've gotten in this far into the show and not talked about the Tarps Off scenario, which is probably against some sort of Cardinal podcasting rules that I'm going to be fined for. But what are your thoughts on this whole phenomenon? Is it a good thing? Is it going to, burn out quickly? What do you think?
I have said for years that the one thing that was missing, and I obviously with fans not showing up as much, but even when the Cardinals were winning, it was a very tame Cardinals crowd. You go to places like Wrigley and it feels like you're at a rock concert, right? there's just a vibe that goes on in some of the other stadiums around town where you go to Busch Stadium and it kind of feels like a business meeting. Like, this is very important. This is very serious. And, we gotta be focused. And I don't know. It just didn't seem like anybody was having as much fun. And probably part of that is because of the veteran presence that were on these teams over the
Yeah.
years, where that's how they played the game. It's great, but it's still a game, and you got to be able to enjoy, being out there playing a kid's game. You even saw teams that weren't winning as much over the years, but when they would play, there's an exuberance to it. I love the crowd in San Diego, which is something that I've always thought. I was like, we need to strive for something like this, just
Mhm.
where everybody's partying and having a good time. And maybe it's just the Midwest vibe that
Yeah.
makes it a little more difficult to do that compared to being on the West Coast and living on the beach and stuff the way people are in San Diego. But I've always kind of craved that. Like, how do we make this feel like it's more entertaining? And another sport that does that is soccer.
Right.
They have those sections at stadiums where everybody's standing and chanting and singing and banging drums and swinging flags, and there's an energy there that goes on through the whole game, and the teams feed off of that. And to see that starting to make its way into Major League Baseball, I love it. I think it's great that people, other teams around the league are catching on to this, and other fan bases are doing it now. And I think it's awesome. I don't know, like you said, I don't know how long it can last, but now that they've said that, hey, this section is going to be just for that, that kind of has unlocked the door for it to stay here for all year long. And if the Cardinals keep winning, people are going to keep coming. And we know as men, we like to be around the other boys who are jumping around and hooting and hollering as much as we can, and let the boys be boys. And that's the section for it. So keep winning. And I think they stay. I think it'll be something that sticks around the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it could be really interesting, next weekend with the Cubs series. That
Mhm.
section may get quite wild.
Yeah,
I
wait
do.
till other teams try to make their way into it and infiltrate. Let's see what happens then.
Well, yeah, although, it is interesting that there was the Cardinals put out that picture of
Cubs
that
guy.
section, and there's a Cub fan standing right in the middle of it. So I don't know, and that wasn't a Cub series. So
There's always a Cubs fan at games wearing a Cubs jersey, and their team is not there. It's the weirdest thing in the world. No matter what city I go to, there's a guy or a gal walking around in their Cubs jersey, and the Cubs will be nowhere to be found. It's weird that they do it, but it's just something that Cubs fans doing for that kind of plop right into the middle of that section when his team's not even there. Good luck, bro.
That's hilarious you say that, because last night I went down to the Springfield Cardinals game in Little Rock. They were playing the Travelers, and I was meeting Dan Chibnall, who is the producer of the Cardinals Off Day podcast. And we had that same discussion. He said, "There's always going to be a Cub fan in the fan. You're going to find a Cubs jersey or whatever the case may be in whatever crowd." And sure enough, later
Mhm.
on, they're shooting hot dogs, and some guy in a Sosa jersey catches one. You're like, "Yep, there they are."
It's
It's
crazy. They're like roaches, man. They just pop up out of nowhere, and there they are, and they're blue, and they're white and stripes and the pinstripes. But they got a cool fan base, man. They're very dedicated, so it's hard to make fun of them. But it's kind of fun to make fun of them a little bit for
yeah.
things like this.
And I mean, to be fair, I mean, and granted, it's usually when the Cardinals are playing. I don't know otherwise, but Cardinals fans are everywhere too, and because we see that all the time when they're on the road. Now, I don't know how often you find them in a game when nobody's there, but I don't know. That's it. It is interesting that brought up, and there will be plenty of them next weekend. You and I will be there Saturday for the Blogger and Podcaster Day. And I know, especially with tickets the way they are, that stadium's going to be probably half and half at this rate. I mean, it's always a significant Cubs presence, but in the last couple of years, it's been almost Wrigley South, which is a bad thing.
Yeah, and I think the passion for what the Cardinals have done this year to bring this different brand of style of baseball that that your parents and grandparents aren't quite used to, and to see it trickling down to the younger generations to um, prove that it's a good time to go to a ball game. It's not boring. It's not sitting on your hands and just watching and filling out scorecards and stuff anymore. No, come down, have a good time, have a beer, and get a little rowdy. It's okay. And I think it's going to be an insane crowd
Yeah.
that whole weekend. It's going to be bonkers, and it looks like, barring any complete meltdowns over the next week, that it should be one of those rivalry games that's going to mean something. And I know last year the Cardinals were in contention at this time too when the Cubs came to
Mhm.
town, and the crowd wasn't there, but there's just a different vibe this year, And I know, like, the last few games with Pittsburgh in town, they're weekday games, and the crowd hasn't been quite like it is. But I believe that if those had been weekend games, that place would have been much more full, like you saw when the Royals were in town.
Mhm.
So I expect huge crowds. I expect a lot of energy. I expect I expect them to come in with some attitude too. I know the Cubs have been struggling and kind of, spiraling a little bit recently, especially against Milwaukee. They were a mess. I hope they stay that way.
Yeah.
But I want the Cardinals to come into this series with an aggression. Like, this is the team that has kind of beat up on you the last few years. And if you're true about, hey, we're a different team, and this is a different year for you, then that's the series where you're really going to be able to supplant and win over your fans again, if you can do some damage and at least take 2 or 3 against Chicago while they're in your house.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be huge. Of course, they've got a good run before that. They get to Cincinnati for 3 and then Milwaukee for
Mhm.
3. And, if you can build up some momentum going into that series, that would be great. I and that those are teams that, again, Cincinnati is a team that you should be able to. I don't wanna say should be able to beat, because the Reds have had some of the same situations that the Cardinals have had, and you never know what's gonna happen in Great American Ballpark. But, you like your chances there, and then, they split with Milwaukee earlier in the year. You go up to Milwaukee and see how that works out. If you're coming out of that road trip, even 3-3, you probably feel pretty good about coming back home against the Cubs.
Yeah, especially with that Milwaukee series, man. Milwaukee, they're brewing again, bro. They're doing it
They
again, and
always do.
it's incredible, because this is what the Cardinals used to be. They'd be like, how do they keep winning with these guys? But they just have a well-oiled machine, and things are really good. Mizorowski's been incredible. They got Churio back. It was kind of it was a bummer that we didn't get that third game between those two
Mhm.
teams, because the first two were pretty good. And yeah, it's going to be a tough place to play in Milwaukee. And they were just in Chicago and swept the Cubs in
Yeah.
Chicago, so it wasn't even like they were in Milwaukee to do it. But that's certainly going to be a test for this
Mhm.
Cardinals team. But they've been better on the road too, which is incredible considering all of the good things that are happening at Busch Stadium. They're just 500 there, and on the road is where they've done a lot of their damage. And as you mentioned, that Reds team had not been playing very well. They go into Philly this week, and they took 2 of 3 there.
Mhm.
But you go to and you look at the starters that are the probables for this week, and all of them have an ERA over 6. So if the if the
Yeah.
offense needs some smelling salts, here you go. Great American Ballpark, tiny ballpark where the ball flies, and you get 3 pitchers who have not pitched very well so far this year. So this is where you can get your wake up call, if you will. Hopefully they get to play, because it is just rain, rain, rain in Cincinnati this whole weekend. So I don't know when they're going to squeeze these games in, but this is kind of what the doctor ordered for this offense, which is hit a slow spot so far in the last 7 to 10 days.
Flip side of that is, of course, the Cardinals have to pitch in that ballpark as well. And
Mhm.
while the pitching has been significantly better this month than we ever expected, it still feels like it's kind of walking that tightrope of, it's not going to take much to kind of push it over the edge. The lack of strikeouts has always been an issue. And I don't know. I mean, we've seen Dustin May pitched fairly well yesterday, not as great as he's been pitching. And I still don't know how Michael McGreevy does it. Um, what are your thoughts about the pitching staff right now?
Uh, Man, it's rotation wise. They're average, again, when you talk about McGreevy, where it feels like it's smoke and mirrors because of the analytics, but that's what pitching is,
Yeah.
it's changing speeds, it's moving in and out of the zone, up and down. That's what you have to do. There's throwers and there's pitchers, right? And then
Mhm.
McGreevy is certainly a pitcher, and I've liked what we saw from Dustin May. He's he's got to work on the walks a little bit. That's been a little bit of a problem, but he's healthy, and that's
Yeah.
what you were really asking for from Dustin May in the first place. Leahy's a work in progress, coming over from being a reliever, though we've seen more positive stuff from him recently as time has gone on. Palante is still a mixed bag. You never really know what you're going to get
Mhm.
out of Andre Palante. When he's on, obviously you see how good that sinker can be. Perfect for playing at Great American Ballpark, and I always had a lot of success against the Reds there too. That's because he does keep the ball down, and if you can keep the ball in the yard in Cincinnati, you stand a much better chance of winning. It's when you get that ball up and they start hitting those fly balls that just
Yeah.
eke over that wall in left center and right center. That's when you start to really have some problems. And then Liberatore, it's that third time around in the batting order. He'll be really, really good for 3, 4, maybe 5 innings, but that third time around, whatever is going on, the other teams are keying in on him, and then they light him up, and it just ruins what should be a really good quality start for him. So clearly, there's issues there. The bullpen is always a work in progress. I don't care what team you are, unless you're the
Mhm.
Padres, who have this ungodly bullpen out there. Every bullpen is a work in progress. Nobody can lie to you and say, "Hey, our bullpen is amazing and never has any
Yep.
problems." They
Mhm.
all have problems because there's so many people out there,
Yeah.
and they can't all be superstars. So to do what they've done with this team, bullpen wise, there's many games that they've blown, but still have as many wins as they have. Has been very impressive. Again, how sustainable is that to come back and win these games and keep going to extra innings and winning? It's usually the percentages aren't good. That's going to be something that
Mhm.
stays around. But to see Stanek start to turn things around and look much better, because his stuff's pretty filthy, but he's got to keep people
Yeah.
off base. He can't keep walking people and putting
Mhm.
himself in danger. Swanson struggles. He just pitched the last 2 games, so he's going to have a day off at least, so you don't have to worry about that. And I don't think. And everybody gets mad when Ali brings him in, and it's like, hey, he's got to pitch sometime. You can't
Yeah.
just leave him out there and just bury him. Eventually, he's got to get into games if you ever want him to get better. Justin Brule is Justin Brule. He's just kind of,
Yeah.
I wish they had been more aggressive about signing another quality left-hander to go along with him, so they had more options, because we knew there wasn't much available at AAA, but they didn't do that. So
Mhm.
Justin Brule, we're kind of stuck with. So he's just a meh kind of reliever out there. But what you've seen out of Riley O'Brien, I hope that this recent turn where he's had a little bit of trouble. The month of May has not been that great for Riley
Mhm.
O'Brien, and I don't know if it's just more people getting tape on him and are reading him better because he's still got nasty stuff. Um, I worry about that a little bit.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
good did we think Riley O'Brien was going to be? Clearly, we didn't think he was going to be this good the way he was the first month and a half of the season. So, can we get him back to that? JoJo's been a little up and down, but that's it. That's the bullpen, man. That's just the way it is. I
Yeah.
guess the biggest surprise was be Soriano, right? How good that was, that late spring acquisition where we're like, we're doing what? Why do we want him? Now you're seeing why the Cardinals went after him and traded Andre Granillo for him. So, yeah, I think they've outkicked their coverage so far this season, and but it's been impressive to see what Dusty Blake and the boys have been able to do with the level of talent that they have on this
Yeah.
pitching staff, because I think they've done much better than people expected.
You said that they have to pitch Swanson sometimes, and I keep hoping, because I really like him. I was really impressed with what he did last year, and there were moments where it looks like he's starting to figure it out, and then they'll have another game or 2 where
Mhm.
things just go south. But a lot of people would say, "Yeah, he needs to pitch, but he needs to pitch in Memphis." And we're seeing that, and I think that same kind of crew is very much clamoring for a change at catcher as well. What are your thoughts about, what Heimblum is doing with this roster, with the idea that he really just doesn't make a move with it unless it kind of forces his hand with an injury like with Church?
That was the plan this year, right?
Mhm.
Was to let these guys just learn and play together at the major league level. This was the group that they liked, the group that they trusted. And you're starting to see that, they're like, make us make a decision,
Right.
make us think about you guys. And that's what you remember when Nelson Velasquez, all of us were like, wait, what? He
Mhm.
didn't make the team out of spring training. And they're like, well, we're
Yeah.
like, go down there, make us think about you and bring you back up. And Velasquez, went into his turtle shell. Like he was awful at Memphis. He's starting to heat up a little bit now, but I think that's kind of the same thing that they're thinking about with Jimmy Crooks. They're like, look, make us have to make a decision about our guys up here. And with the Cardinals winning the way they are, and the way that pitching staff works with Pajes, and the relationships that they have with guys, you don't have to make some drastic move. This is not a team that is like all in, right? They're not
Mhm.
all in that they have to make the playoffs this year. They want these guys to play together at this level. And if it's just the strikeouts thing that's a problem with Jimmy Crooks down there, or maybe it's a playing time thing that they're like, look, we want him to be catching more than he would be at the major league level. Like they're not going to just alter this long-term plan that they have put in place just because the to just make a move to make a move. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not that's kind of what Heimblum said. Like, this is what we're doing. We're not going to alter this just because of a 10-15 day window if we don't have to. And I feel like that they're sticking to their guns there, which I appreciate, because they said that
Mhm.
right away. They're like, look, this is how it's going to be, and don't get crazy, don't get mad at us about this, whether or not you know if that's fair to say to a fan, to not get upset and not expect change. But you know how we are as fanatics for a team. Like, you have one bad game, get them out of here. And that's just not the way it can be in the game of baseball when you got 162 to play. You got to let these guys work through their issues. And I just, they like Pajes. They just really
Mhm.
do. He's a
Mhm.
solid backup catcher in Major League Baseball. And, whether they decide that Ivan Herrera needs to be more of a DH or not, but, he's been a pretty good guy. He can't throw.
Right.
That's still
Right.
a thing. Like, he's no threat to gun anybody and slow down anybody's base running against your team. But, at the same time, they said, hey, we're going to give you a chance. And you got to remember, too, we are, just 2 months into the season. Now, if this was like July and everything is still the same, and you're still in contention for the wild card and pushing for the division, maybe you would see more drastic changes. But there's one thing that the Cardinals have been able to do. It's been patience. And
Mhm.
I hate using Mo's word, dude. I hate it so much. But that's what they have to do, because this is a young team and they're going to go through lulls from time to time. And we haven't seen a really long one yet. And I mean, why would you alter what's put you in a place that you are right now just to maybe get a couple of bats here and there from a Jimmy Crooks? I think keeping him in Memphis and letting him do his thing until you have to bring him up is the smart thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, and Ollie was asked about it this week. I saw the video where he was really complimentary of what Pages does with the pitching staff and everything that goes along. And they admit, hey, yeah, sure, maybe the at bats aren't always there. Although, every once in a while he'll come up there and get a big hit that you're not expecting. And they're cognizant of what Jimmy Crooks is doing. So I think you're right. I think it is a lot of this commitment to the long-term plan, not letting these short-term successes, or this,
Mhm.
surprise, rule what they do. And I think that is, I mean, again, John Mozeliak never came into a season with this kind of low bar, right? This idea that this was not going to be a good year. It always was going to be some sort of successful year. That was at least the plan going in. But it does feel to me that if Mo was still in charge here, I think there would be I don't think they'd be able to resist the temptation to do some manipulation to try to keep this run going. Whereas Heim is like, no, if it falls apart, it falls apart, but we're going to stick with this thing. I think that's probably the biggest difference between the two things. And again, they're coming in at different ways and at different times and with different expectations. But I think the commitment to that long term goal is something that is new for the front office.
Yeah, there's not the pressure of winning immediately. They've already
Mhm.
told you that we're not doing that. We're not going
Right.
all in. We're not going to go, make some massive trade at the deadline and bring in some big expensive piece. Like that's just not going to be. These are the guys, and they're going to have to learn together. And that's the part of this is like they're going to learn to win together. They're going to learn to lose together.
Yeah.
That's the idea. Is this is your core. This is who you're moving forward with for the next few seasons, and they have to be able to learn to get themselves out of situations when they are losing 3-4 in a row, if and when that ever happens. It feels like we're in one of those spots right now where things aren't quite clicking as well excuse me, as the way that they have been for most of the season, and they got to learn to dig themselves out of it. And
Right.
that's the whole point of this season, is that the guys that are going to be your leaders moving forward, the Mason Wins and JJs and Ivan Herrera's and Alec Burlesons and Gormans and all, they're the ones that are going to have to dig themselves out of this.
Mhm.
If they're going to have a tough situation, that it's just like anybody on their singular season themselves. When Jordan Walker started to cool off a little bit, Ollie didn't move him down. They didn't go like, all right, we're going to move you back to
Yeah.
the 7
Yeah.
hole for a little bit and let you figure that. No, man, that you're the guy. This
Mhm.
is your spot. You are the cleanup hitter on this team, and you have to figure out a way to get back to where you were. And that goes for the whole team. Same thing with like JJ Weatherholt right now. He's a rookie, I understand that, but you're not moving him out of that top spot. That's
Mhm.
where he belongs.
Yeah.
And when he's going, this Cardinals team is going, and he is he is the spoon that stirs the Kool-Aid for this team. And when you see him cool off as much as he has, that's part of the reason why this offense isn't
Yeah.
at the level that you've seen it before. So, and he's got to learn to pick himself out of that. When he got hot in Pittsburgh, the team got hot. And when he's cooled off a little bit, the team's cooled off a little bit. It really, it's amazing how much of a difference he's made at the top of the order. So this is just the way it's going to be this year, and they were honest about it. So nobody should be mad if any moves aren't made at the deadline or anything like that, as far as bringing in a whole bunch of extra talent, because they told you they weren't planning on
Mhm.
doing that this year.
Yeah, but how do you think the reaction will be, or what do you think they will do if we get close to the deadline? The Cardinals are still maybe around 500. They're 2 or 3 games out of the wild card spot. Again, they're not bringing anybody in, but this season there was this expectation that Dustin May or Stanek or Romero, or now even maybe Riley O'Brien, could be traded at the deadline to bring in more talent. Does the Do they hold their hand a little bit on that if they are being successful? Maybe hold those guys, or do they go ahead and commit to it, even though that might mean a terrible last couple months?
I would think the thing with Dustin May is that they have that option
Mhm.
for next year. So if they don't think that, the timeline for any of those other guys at AAA to come up and make a difference and help them next year or at the end of the season, if they're not there, they have that option, right?
True. Yeah.
With May for the next season. So they don't have to trade him, but he's also, you got to look at the long-term goals. And the Brewers have been able to do this, when they traded Hader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's like, "What are you doing? You guys are right there." And
Including their clubhouse.
yeah, everybody got so mad at them and stuff like that. But they're like, "Hold on, this is the business model." They're like, "Hold on, we need to do things like this to be able to sustain how well we've been playing as a franchise for the next few seasons." And look how it worked out for them. You can't be scared that moving a guy for a haul of prospects. If JoJo
Mhm.
Romero's worth a ton at the deadline this year, yeah, you move them. Bullpen guys are like,
Right.
you don't know what you're going to get. They're so volatile.
Mhm.
You just really don't know. And that's why, when I see some of these long-term contracts that relievers get, I'm like, wow, the
Mhm.
balls on you guys to do that, because next year they could be terrible. Like
Mhm.
it's weird how bullpen guys can go. You saw it with Ryan Helsley here. It was like, dude, look how good he was. Rolaids, reliever of the year. Should be extending this guy. And then the next year, he was half the guy he was the previous year. That's just kind of how it works. It's a very, very finicky situation. So the bullpen guys, I'm cool with moving anybody from the bullpen whenever you want to. That doesn't bother me in the slightest. Dustin May, Is he going to stay healthy again after this year? We're only 2 months in, so we'll see how things shake out by the time we get to the end of July. But I'm okay with it. It's really okay. Is this team gonna completely crumble without those people? I would hope not. I would
Mhm.
hope not. I know how good Riley O'Brien has been and how important JoJo has been, but maybe by that time you've found some guys in different spots in your organization already that can step up. So, yeah, I'm full on for this rebuild. And if somebody's going to offer you crazy stuff in return for guys like a JoJo Romero and a Riley O'Brien and a Dustin May, I think Heim has to pull the trigger on that stuff because it's not about this year.
Right.
Like you're not trading big pieces from your core. You're not trading Alec Burlesons or anybody like
Mhm.
that, but you're trading pieces that you feel like you can replace next year. And I think that's the smart way to go about this. And personally, I won't be mad. I might bum out some folks if they tear away some of the little guys that help make this whole engine work together. But I think it's in the best interest of what this franchise is doing moving forward to do things like that.
Yeah. I will say Dustin May has a mutual option, so, you have to make sure before you don't trade him that he's willing to come back.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he's pitched well enough to earn himself. I mean, it's like a $20 million. I don't know that he's pitched well enough to do better than that on the free agent market, especially in a season where there might not be a free agent market due to lockout. So that may not be as big of a stumbling block as there would have been in the past. So yeah, I agree. I think they might, just kind of because there is gonna have to be this idea of we wanna keep the excitement around this team and the fan base, alive too, and if you kind of gut the team, even if it's got a long-term plan, that can hamper that. But I agree. I mean, if there's a move out there to make, I don't think the Cardinals are gonna worry about the fact that they might lose, you know, 5 more games over the last 2 months. They'll make that call. The other issue is, of course, if you traded, 3 bullpen pieces, where does that come from? And right now, I don't know that there's that many arms in Memphis. We've seen, Ryan Fernandez pitch
Mhm.
okay down there, but Roycroft's been rough down there, and, I mean, you can always bring in, an arm or 2 and just see what they do, but there's nobody necessarily just, knocking on the door hard to get up here, if you do make that kind of move.
Yeah, and that's one of the things where when people want Swanson to go down, and I'm like, yeah, I get it, but who are you
Mhm.
bringing up? Like your Fernandez, Roycroft, like who on this 40 man are you like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
go? There's really not anybody that's going to be doing all that much better than what you've seen from Swanson anyway. So, and that's one of the things that the Cardinals are working on, man. They're trying to add depth to this organization, and it's they were in a bad spot, and they've done so much to rebuild what was lacking in this system those last few years with Mo.
Mhm.
And it's a work in progress. It's going to take time, and it sucks that there isn't better options at AAA this year. But that's the way it works, and you just need people that are down there to step up, and
Yeah.
you've got other guys down there like Scott Blewett, like guys
Yeah.
like that are like veteran arms that you could bring up, and
Sure.
then Schuster, you've got these guys that like
Bring
at
him
the end of
back
the
again.
year. Yeah, like, there are guys that you could bring up that you would fill those roles, when and if they decide to trade some guys away, but you gotta be able to you can't be scared to trade pieces for better situations for 2027, 2028, because that's what we're working towards. We're not again, it's not all in this year, so, we have to understand that's where the mentality is for this organization right now, and that's okay. You gotta be okay with it, because if you
Mhm.
want to get back to the Cardinal way where you have a sustained ability to win for 4, 5, 6 years. This is how you do it. You got to build it through your minor league system and through your prospects, and that's how the Cardinals did it for a long time. Is that they would bring these guys up and that they had built themselves, and then they would add pieces from the outside
Right.
or trade some of those guys that they had built up to go get those other guys, the Matt Hollidays and everybody else to bring in the Scott Rowlands and stuff like that. You see those trades where it's like, man, the Cardinals really took that team to the cleaners on that trade, right? Well, those prospects were considered pretty decent prospects at the time, the guys that they traded. And that's what you got to do. You got to be like, hey, look at how cool and shiny and young and beautiful these kids are. Let's give them, and we'll take your older guy, right? The more expensive guy. We'll do that. And that's how they were able to wheel and deal and get this thing to last as long as it did. And that's what they're trying to get back to again. And, and they're just going to be a little more conscious about the money right now. I don't know when this team or this ownership is going to start spending again. I know this lockout thing is obviously a big thing that everybody's keeping an eye on, that has altered some people's plans as far as spending money. But I think when you have a city like St. Louis and it's a mid to small market, you do have an ownership that's got money. It's not like they have money like the Reds where they don't have it. They're billionaires. They have the money, but do they need to spend the way they used to? Because they weren't very good at it, know. And that was kind of on Mo, who would go out, he would get money, and they'd be like, here's the money, go get some guys, and they would get the wrong guys. They would get guys that didn't work out so well. So they got to be better at that. But if you could just build these guys through your own organization instead of having to go out shopping on the free agent market all the time for like the big pieces, to grow your own big pieces here in St. Louis and in your own organization. That's the ultimate goal. And that's how guys like Milwaukee have been able to do what they've done. You've seen them do it where they just keep bringing dudes up and they just keep chugging along, don't they? And then they trade off the guys that are going to be super expensive and they go get more younger guys to play their brand of baseball. And that's kind of where the Cardinals need to go. And I think they're headed in the right direction. So,
So, in that vein, what prospect, what future piece has you the most excited right now?
Oh, gosh, because I wanted to be a pitcher so bad. I know there's so much excitement about Joshua Baez and Rainier Rodriguez, Bernal. But I wanted to be a pitcher because that's what we haven't seen in a long time is somebody to come up that's like an ace that came out of the Cardinals organization. So I want Liam Doyle to be awesome so bad. They need that so bad. I had such high expectations and hopes for Quinn Matthews for a while there, and things just have not worked out for him. Since that amazing season where he went all the way up to AAA in 1 year. But to see them go after pitching, Senja has been pretty good so far. But again, these are guys that are kind of in the AA area. So it's going to be a year or two before we see them up in the big leagues. But I'm more excited about the pitching side of things for the Cardinals because they need that so bad. It's the hardest thing to grow. They got all these catchers. Eventually they're going to have to move one or two of them to go add to the pitching depth in the organization. So give me Liam Doyle. Like, we still don't know what's going on with Brandon Clark, because he's been hurt, but Tanner Franklin coming out, I wouldn't say out of nowhere, but being a reliever in college and doing what he's doing now, like, I'm excited about that. I had high hopes for Eshawn Henderson. Fajardo obviously has opened up some eyes. So, these are some new names that Heim was able to bring into the organization, either from other teams or the draft. And that's what I'm excited about. We got to grow. We got to grow some of our own Cy Young worthy type of pitchers. They have yet to prove that they can do that. So I'm excited about. Give me Liam Doyle as the guy I'm most excited about because I need him to be good.
Yeah. I was going into the game last night. I thought Doyle was supposed to pitch, and so it was very disappointing when he did not. And so, I'm very excited to see what that looks like, because not only have the Cardinals not had, top of the line pitching in a while, they haven't had a, strikeout type pitcher in a long time, right?
Yeah.
I can't, kind of go back to maybe even Rick Ankiel to get the kind of strikeout stuff that you've brought up through the minor leagues.
Reyes was the last one that I remember. Alex Reyes, everybody was like, oh my gosh, this dude is disgusting, and everything had set him up to be that dude and be the ace, and then the injury started and they just never stopped. And it was such an unfortunate thing because you think about some of the talent that the Cardinals had that we never got to see blossom, with
Mhm.
the passing of Oscar Tavares, who
Right.
was one of the top hitting prospects in baseball. And then Reyes, who was the top right-handed pitching prospect in baseball coming up. And then he completely loses control of being able to stay healthy.
Mhm.
And, those are big things that the Cardinals were banking on to be really good for them for, like half a decade. And it just got wiped out. And that's unfortunate, and that's the sad part of what happens in this game. All these prospects, some of them come up and they don't become exactly what you thought they were going to be. Flaherty, I thought, was going to be much better than what the version the Cardinals got from him. There's been a lot of disappointment with the prospects coming up. So they got to start hitting on these guys, especially on a top 5 pick like Doyle. Like
Yeah.
you can't screw that up. That's what happens to other teams, and that's how they remain insignificant in Major League Baseball when
Mhm.
they keep screwing up their picks. Like the Pirates, like Henry Davis, the number 1 overall pick, has not panned out whatsoever. Cardinals can't do that. They have to nail that spot with Doyle, and it appears at least that he's starting to pick it up and start to become the guy that everybody thinks he can be at some point.
Yeah, and they seem to have done that with Weatherholt as well. It's amazing to me that Alex Reyes's last pitch in the major leagues is the one that Chris Taylor hit for a home run in that 21 wild card game. He never has pitched in the major since then, and that's been
Yeah.
getting on 5 years now. Probably never will. Guy that had so much potential, even and had such a great year in 21. Well, great first half of the year. It's just I know he's hit a few minor league stags, but injuries and stuff have kept him away, and yeah, just never really developed. And hopefully it does feel like, and again, we've seen some injuries at the minor league level this year, obviously, but the Cardinals are on a run of the last couple of years of keeping their guys fairly healthy overall. So whether they figured something out or it's just a little bit of a fluke, we'll see. But hopefully whatever it is continues.
Yeah, and I know the Cardinals catch some flack, especially Ollie, for pulling these guys in the 5th, 6th inning, even if they're at like 75, 80 pitches. But
Mhm.
that's the idea, is
Yeah.
I got to keep them on the field. And when you push these dudes to 95 and 100 pitches, and I don't want to hear about Bob Gibson anymore. Okay, it's a different world, it's a different era. They just don't do it like that anymore. Okay. So we have to get over that. The days of throwing 7, 8, 9 innings for these guys, it's gone. They just don't do it anymore. So you have to get past that. And you have to understand that when they pull these guys after the 75, 80 pitch mark, there's a reason for it. It's not because Ollie thinks that other guy in the bullpen is so much better than what McGreevy is bringing out to the mound for that next inning. It has to do with being where they are in the batting order for the other
Mhm.
team, and how many times they've seen him, and what was the hard hit percentage against him the
Yep.
last time they went through the order. And it's about keeping them healthy and fresh. What they did last year, we've said it over and over, that's not normal. Keeping
Right.
your entire rotation off the IL for an entire season, it's not normal. That doesn't happen.
Mm-mm.
And there's reasons that the Cardinals, precautionary reasons that the Cardinals have taken to make that a possibility for them, because they don't have the depth. And it's a bummer not having, Richard Fitz. At least you got a Hunter Dobbins right now that's waiting in the
Right.
wings if something were to happen. But you're not going to get overly aggressive all of a sudden in May with one of your starters
Mm-mm.
just because you have Hunter Dobbins available. Like, why would you do that? So you gotta trust the process. I hate sounding like the Philadelphia 76ers. I hate it. And I hate the cliches, but I don't know how else to explain it. You got to trust the process, trust these guys knowing what they're doing. They've brought in so much extra staff members and guys that have eyeballs on these guys. They know what they're doing. All right.
Yep.
That's why they're where they are. They're being paid to keep an eye on these guys, keep them healthy, and do what's smart for them and the organization. At the same time, they're gonna try to remain competitive and win ball games while doing all of this. So it's worked out so far. So just kind of let Ollie and the boys cook. They're doing just fine. The level of talent that they have in that room, that's what's limiting them. It's not Ollie's managing skills, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's they don't have the talent there yet, and that's the next thing. You're seeing good things from the offense, and eventually, hopefully, we get that same boost from the pitching staff when some of these young guys develop and are ready to produce at the major league level.
Hopefully so. Hopefully so. All right. Well, Jay, it's been a lot of fun. Is there anything that we haven't touched on you'd like to talk about? I mean, not that you don't have plenty of opportunities to talk about anything you want, but
I'm excited for the series against Cincinnati. I'll be in Cincinnati for these games if they get them in. My wife's from there, so I love going to to Cincinnati and going to the stadiums there. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun. Happy birthday to Jordan Walker, who was celebrating his birthday on Friday, and I'm trying to get my wife to let me bring a sign that says happy birthday, Jordan, but I don't know if it's going to work. She also said, I better keep my tarp on. She's like, don't you even dare start doing that crap in the stadium. She's like, I know these people here. Don't be that guy. And I'm like, well, we'll see.
I mean, if the moment comes.
Yeah, if the moment strikes, that you got to go for it sometimes. So I'm hoping that the Cardinals are gonna be able to open up the offense a little more in this series. I know it'll be tough, but if you can get 2 or 3 in Cincinnati, somehow, like you mentioned, get 500 for this road trip, the 6-game road trip. If you can get 500 and come back to Chicago, I think that would be positive. And I'm looking forward to it. I've enjoyed this team so far this year. I'm enjoying the fan base getting behind them, and it's been fun to be a Cardinals fan again. And I love upsetting the rest of my Locked On hosts who are all upset. Like, you guys are supposed to stink this year. What is this? And I'm like, sorry. Hate to ruin your fun, but it's been a very enjoyable first few weeks of the season, and I hope it continues.
Absolutely. All right. Well, like I said, JD's on Locked On. You can find him everywhere you find podcasts. Find him on YouTube, all that kind of stuff every day. So check that out. Next week, Alex Crisafulli will be here. We'll do an early recording show because next Saturday, week from tomorrow, is Blogger Day, so we'll all be there. Look forward to
Are we going down to the Tarps Off area, all of us podcasters and bloggers?
I can tell you not all of us, because I'm not going. But I imagine that I would be very surprised if there are not some of the podcasters that don't make it down there at some point in time during the game.
I think it's got to happen, man. We all got to take our dad bods down there and show them off a little bit.
I mean, and you got to figure it's a national broadcast, so you got a good chance of being on TV that way. So, if you want to be, maybe everybody can see it. So just may have to factor that in as well. But look forward to that. Look forward to seeing Alex next week. So until then, for JD, I'm Daniel. Good night.
This series has been void of bad blood probably until the end of the night last night. And there's Dusty Baker and Tony La Russa. They've had their issues with one another over the years.
Well, I'm really stunned that a war of words would actually cause the benches to empty before they get going in the bottom of the first inning. Obviously, some discourse between Yadier Molina and Brandon Phillips sparked the whole thing. We won't know until after a game exactly what was said. Now Scott Rowland is getting into it.
And now it is turning ugly.
With Chris Carpenter. And Carpenter's the one down there chirping.
Carpenter had issues with his own teammates last night. And it is getting really ugly as we've got punches and kicks. Johnny Cueto, the starting pitcher, is being wrestled away.
And this is not good at all, because this is the kind of situation where somebody can get up, get hurt, get their finger stepped on, and it's just not baseball.